You know that incredible feeling when you read the very first sentence of a truly great book and boom, it just grabs you. You're literally leaning forward, your imagination is totally sparked, and you just have to know what happens next? Well, that magnetic pull, that's exactly what we're going to unpack in today's explainer. We're diving deep into the art and the science of the keynote address. Welcome. I'm so pumped to guide you through this material today because we're going to break down exactly how you can craft a presentation that doesn't just, spit out facts, but literally changes the way people see the world.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To pull this off, we first have to ask, what actually makes a presentation unforgettable? And honestly, why should you even care? Well, it all comes down to a fundamental principle. What's in it for me? Look, mastering the keynote isn't just some trick for professional speakers. It's an absolutely crucial skill for your own career, your ability to influence people, and your power to drive real, tangible change. Whether you're pitching a wild new idea to your team, trying to lock down funding, or stepping out on stage at a massive conference, your ability to command that room, that's what decides if your ideas take flight or if they just kind of fall flat.
Now, audiences always want a roadmap, and since we're practicing what we preach today, here's our agenda. First, defining the keynote. Second, crafting the core content. Third, delivering with confidence. And finally, number 4, engaging your audience.
So, let's jump straight into part 1, defining the keynote and setting the tone.
And this brilliantly illustrates our very first point. Keynotes are usually delivered by experts who are brought in for a very specific reason, to establish the underlying energy and to summarize the core message of an entire event. You see, you aren't just another bullet point on the schedule. You are the anchor. To put a formal definition on it, a keynote address is a speech delivered to set the underlying tone and summarize the core message of an event. But let's think about what that really means in practice. Whether the people in the audience practically fought for front row seats or they were just mandated to be there by their boss, your job as a speaker is to be their lens. You provide the exact perspective through which those attendees are going to view literally everything else at that gathering. It's a massive responsibility for sure, but man, it's an incredible opportunity to shape their entire experience.
All right, moving right along to part 2, crafting the core content. Think of this as your blueprint.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is the timing. You have maybe 20 seconds to get an audience's attention. Seriously, just 20 seconds. They've got their phones in their pockets, a million emails on their minds. You have to open with a spark. Hit them with a startling fact, a bold statement, or just a simple, deeply profound sentence that makes them physically lean forward and put those phones away right then and there. Skip that boring, standard, good morning, my name is routine. Just jump straight into a moment that absolutely demands their engagement.
Once you've hooked them, you need a solid blueprint. Think of this chronological structure as your master roadmap. You start strong with that grabber or hook. From there, you move immediately into your thesis and preview. This is where you explicitly tell them where the journey is going. Next up is the body, which is your main points, backed up by rock-solid evidence and compelling stories. And finally, the conclusion and call to action. A lot of the absolute best talks follow a narrative arc that's basically a detective story. You introduce a complex problem, detail the search for a solution, and then build up to this massive aha moment where the audience's entire perspective just shifts.
But hold on, before you can build all of that out, you have to be radically clear about your core message. I absolutely love this challenge from the source material. Can you summarize your entire speech in 10 words or less? Okay, maybe 12 words. If you can't distill your central thesis into a single razor-sharp sentence, I guarantee your audience won't be able to remember it either. Forcing yourself to write this ultra-short summary gives you incredible focus, and it provides a really clear structural anchor for every single other thing you write.
So the crucial point here is the rule of 3. When you're building out the body of your presentation, you've got to limit your main ideas to just 3. Maybe, if push comes to shove, up to 5 key points. This isn't just some stylistic preference, guys. It's literally based on how human brains process information. If you stand up there and try to rattle off 12 different ideas, your audience is going to absorb exactly 0 of them. But if you take just 3 ideas and develop them thoroughly with vivid stories, examples, and real emotion, they are going to remember those long after they've left the building.
Which brings us perfectly to part 3, delivering with confidence. This is where we move from just being a speaker to being a true performer.
The sources draw a really brilliant contrast here. Let's break it down. A novice presenter basically just shares information. They stand safely behind a podium, stare down at their notes, and just sort of narrate a text. They falsely believe that facts alone are enough to change people. We've all sat through that, right? It's that classic, completely monotonous corporate read aloud. But a transformational performer, They actively take the audience on a dynamic, highly entertaining, and emotional journey. They aren't just dumping data, they're aiming to fundamentally change how people think, how they act, and how they feel.
Reaching that transformational level really requires understanding the entertainment factor. Now, obviously, entertaining is totally subjective. What makes one person laugh or cry might not work for someone else. But you have to leverage both your own natural talent and some pretty strict discipline to craft an experience that is uniquely yours. A truly great performance is actually made up of hundreds of contrasting micro-moments. Think about it. If you deliver your content at the exact same pace and the exact same volume the entire time, it just becomes a drone. And monotony? Monotony is the absolute enemy of engagement.
So how do we physically pull this off? Well, first, strive for conversational confidence. You want to sound like you're sharing something incredibly important with a good friend, not like you're delivering a stiff monologue to total strangers. Second, use the 3 to 5 second eye contact rule. Instead of doing that vague security camera sweep across the room, lock eyes with one specific person for a complete thought, about 3 to 5 seconds, and then deliberately move to someone else in a completely different section. And finally, utilize strategic silence. Seriously, don't gobble or rush just to fill dead air. Pausing right before a key point builds incredible tension and shows that you are in authentic, relaxed control of the room.
Another major hallmark of a transformational performer is having a signature bit. Just like great bands have their signature songs, legendary speakers have a memorable visual, physical, or interactive anchor point. The sources give us some amazing examples of this. Carla Harris wearing her magnificent pearls on stage to literally reveal pearls of wisdom from Wall Street. Or Bobby McFerrin, this is wild, literally assigning musical notes to the audience to demonstrate the pentatonic scale. Or Jill Bolt Taylor holding up a real human brain to talk about her stroke. A signature bit makes your core message incredibly sticky and highly repeatable.
Okay, let's head into our final section, Part 4, Engaging Your Audience. This is all about the mutual journey. Let's move to this quote and see how it builds on everything we've talked about. A successful talk is a little miracle. People see the world differently afterward. I just love that phrasing. But to make that miracle happen, you always have to remember that your audience has free will. They do not have to pay attention to you. In fact, they've got the most addictive distraction devices in human history sitting right in their pockets. So you have to actively construct an environment and a narrative that makes them genuinely want to listen to you more than anything else for those few moments.
And the absolute quickest way to build that engaged environment, it's through what we call the so what, who cares statement. Very early on in your presentation, yes, you need to build common ground and establish your credibility. But way more importantly, you have to tell the audience exactly why this topic intersects with their specific lives, their careers, or their deepest dreams. If they are sitting in those chairs thinking, okay, so what, or who even cares, you have literally already lost them. You've got to anticipate and answer those unspoken questions immediately.
To keep that engagement super tight and avoid the deadly trap of rambling, lean heavily on the know, feel, do framework. Whenever you're evaluating any single section of your speech, just ask yourself, what concrete facts must the audience know right here? What specific emotional arousal, whether it's excitement, urgency, or maybe deep empathy, do they need to feel? And ultimately, what is the clear call to action I want them to do? If a part of your speech doesn't directly serve at least one of those 3 goals, just cut it.
So, there you have it. We've covered the structural blueprint, the art of the performance, and the deep psychology of a truly great keynote. The tools to craft a transformational message are literally right there in your hands. A beautifully crafted speech has the immense power to shift perspectives, to spark massive movements, and yes, even to change the world. So the only question left is, how are you going to use your next opportunity at the microphone? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Get out there, start crafting that unforgettable hook, and I'll catch you next time.